European SharePoint Office 365 and Azure Conference 2018, and now I have a very, very special guest here. Hi, Jeff.
Hello, good to see you again.
I think nobody has to introduce you as the father of SharePoint. We are doing SharePoint for decades right now, right?
Well, not that long,
No,
but it's probably been 15 plus years, yeah.
And it's incredible how SharePoint has evolved. People often ask me, wow, SharePoint, it doesn't be so relevant anymore, but on the other hand, it's still a strong brand, still a community, and it's still the back end of all these Office 365 stuff.
Yeah, no, this is the biggest year in the history of SharePoint. If you measure it by number of new organizations, by storage, by usage, by new solutions, just to pick one example, the modern web stack for extending SharePoint called the SharePoint Framework, we released last year. We're now on our 8th update of it, 1.7, and that doubles every 6 months in the number of users adopting it. So just because we've been around for a while doesn't mean we're not growing faster than ever. It's pretty amazing to see, as you can see at this event here.
Yeah, it's awesome how everything's developed. I'm not a developer, but I hosted with two other guys Global Office 365 bootcamp in Berlin. And people had fun to start programming with web parts and do all the stuff with Teams. So it's still a valid and a good platform for building solutions.
Yeah, I think when we talk to developers as both technical people and business people, they ask us for two things. How many sockets do you have for us to target as an installed base? And then the second is, can I use a mainstream development environment? And that is what attracted say 10 years ago, the hockey stick growth of SharePoint is that we had 200 million users of SharePoint on premises, and then it leveraged ASP.NET as a development platform, and those two things together, sockets and tech, got things going. And we revamped the programming model around SharePoint to be the Graph API, which is REST-based, and the SharePoint Framework, which is JavaScript, React-based. And so that means any great web developer sort of working today knows how to program SharePoint. There's not this separate thing you have to really learn. And so that's why you see this really insane growth is great base to target with modern development platform.
Yeah, when I see what's now possible with the new platform, with all these SharePoint sites, the news site, the community site, and when I look back to 2001, how complicated things was to customize and to enter, it's dramatically changed, and it's state of the art. Like I'm using WordPress, it's the same experience for me as an engineer.
It's better than that.
Of course, it's better than
that. If you go to the web, aka.ms/SharePoint Lookbook, or just search on SharePoint space Lookbook, you'll see this brochure we did for the UI you can do for the new SharePoint. And I challenge people in the keynote, take that into your corporate comms person or your CIO. They will be amazed what you can do with no coding. The other thing you hit on, and I think Germany is a market where this really has gotten particularly excitement, is the notion of Power Apps and Flow with SharePoint. So Microsoft Flow is a way you can orchestrate business processes, not just with SharePoint, but dozens of backends, everything from Salesforce to SAP to Twitter. You can design these flows, you can even bring in Azure AI services and so forth, as we showed in the keynote. And the fact that SharePoint is seamlessly integrated in Microsoft Flow, that any place in a document library or list you can add a flow for building these processes faster than ever, certainly faster than previous versions of SharePoint, has really resonated in the market, and we've heard a lot of great excitement in the German market in particular.
It's absolutely cool. I'm an old SharePoint designer guy, and I love to customize my SharePoint in earlier time. And when you now see what you can do with Flow, with Power Apps, it's quite impressive for a person like me who is not a developer, but I think Mike Fitzmaurice called it citizen developer.
That's right. Yeah, we showed this thing in the keynote yesterday where you can take a picture on your phone, it goes into a SharePoint document library, a flow's kicked off to compare that picture to a train set through Azure Cognitive Services. It marks it with a confidence, say I'm 10% confident or 90% confident. And then the next step in the flow is to route an email approval to somebody that somebody can approve, right in the email message, yes or no, this is a valid picture for this scenario. And that citizen developer, there's a lot there, from actionable messages to Azure Cognitive Services and so forth, but no code was written in that solution.
Yeah, in Germany we're talking a lot about the modern intranet, what's the core components, and when I look at SharePoint Online, we have now the communication sites, we have the hub site, we have SharePoint News, and I think people have created intranets in former times with this traditional top site, sub-site, sub-site, so we have to rethink it and to build a new intranet based on news sites and hubs.
Yeah.
What are your recommendations for that?
Exactly. So, by being the leading intranet platform for over a decade, and I think you probably remember this from some of the events we've done, there's a survey, at least in the US, called the Nielsen-Norman Group of the best intranets, and inevitably a lot, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 are SharePoint based, and we always looked at those, and they took a fair amount of work, and there was ways they could be better. They could be more mobile, more social, more engaging. So we learned from all that experience, and 2.5 years ago we introduced our new vision with the future of SharePoint, where we said we're going to have a new UI that's more out of box called communication sites, that's going to bring in social, Yammer, into the experience, video, Stream, you mentioned to me before the podcast that you've been involved in Stream, and you will be able to really do two things. One, build a great solution, web and mobile, much faster than before, but also we've learned a lot about information architecture. As you said, people used to build their intranets with very deep hierarchies of subsites and subsites, and we learned that in a dynamic organization, fixed hierarchies, not very fluid. And so what we've done with this new model is you have a flat set of teams, hubs, team sites that are connected to other things in Office 365, and you can link those into hub sites. And if you want to move one team from one hub to another, you can do that, and then their news and search gets all aggregated. So, if I had to boil it down into two things: more out of box and a more flexible information architecture.
Maybe last question, a little bit looking into the future. When I see the platform evolving, we have still Outlook for our emails. Yeah. We have a very strong growing client of Teams. Yeah. I think in one of your last blog posts you said it's a new hub, communication hub for that. Then we see the Yammer client, we see Stream coming, and last but not least the SharePoint Newsstream. With these 5 apps, I can do almost everything on the platform. And do I still need the browser to go to my SharePoint in the future?
That's a great question. I think when we've seen in the history of the technology industry and in the open public consumer internet is that these communication and publishing mechanisms tend to complement each other. People are still building websites. It's just they're generating traffic to them through social media, through Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and so forth. That never will be captured in 144 characters. You want a well thought out information architecture with high quality content that brings in video and social and data and text into a curated experience. And so I think there's always going to be this role for this content management system, if you will, at SharePoint. People spend most of their time in communication tools. So they'll be in Outlook or Teams, and we want to make sure the documents and websites that are stored in SharePoint seamlessly integrate with those conversations. I think to net it out, collaboration will always be content plus communications. Yeah. There will never only be communications.
Jeff, it was a great pleasure to talk to you. Yeah, do you have any plans to come to Germany next year?
Not my schedule yet, but I'd love to, of course. Actually, I just signed up for the Berlin Marathon next September. So I haven't scheduled any work activity in Germany, but I am a little terrified. I am going to be in Germany running the Berlin Marathon.
Okay, I get out my SharePoint flag and will wave. Thank you very much.